November 7th, 1872. New York City. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of brine and coal smoke. Captain Benjamin Briggs stood on the deck of his brigantine, the Mary Celeste, a vessel sturdy and sleek. He watched the last of his precious freight being loaded, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol destined for Genoa, Italy. This was no ordinary voyage for Briggs. His wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia were joining him, a rare privilege, a family adventure at sea. He had chosen his crew with care, 7 experienced men, all known to him, all reliable. A tight-knit group, confident in their captain and their ship. The Mary Celeste was well-maintained, seaworthy, her hull recently cleaned, her sails strong. Everything was in order, every provision checked, every detail accounted for. This was to be a routine transatlantic crossing. For Captain Briggs, the sea was home, a predictable if sometimes formidable companion. He was a man of quiet competence, meticulous in safety. He trusted his ship implicitly. As the Mary Celeste slipped her moorings, a light breeze catching her sails, heading out into the vast gray expanse of the Atlantic, there was no reason to suspect this voyage would be anything but ordinary. It was a journey of trade, of family, of life at sea. A journey that would soon descend into one of the ocean's most enduring and unsettling enigmas. Almost a month later, on December 4th, 1872, the British brigantine Dei Gratia was making its own way across the Atlantic, about 400 miles east of the Azores. On her deck, First Mate Oliver Deveau spotted something on the horizon, a sail, then another. It was a ship appearing to drift aimlessly. Captain David Morehouse, a close friend of Benjamin Briggs, recognized the vessel almost immediately. It was the Mary Celeste, a flicker of concern. Why was she sailing so erratically? No signals were exchanged. No flag of distress was flown. The Dei Gratia slowly closed the distance, the unease among its crew palpable. As they drew nearer, a chilling silence hung over the water. The Mary Celeste was sailing under partial canvas, her sails tattered and flapping, but not in any obvious state of emergency. No one was on deck. No one responded to their hails. Morehouse ordered a boarding party. Deveau, with 2 of his crew, rowed across the choppy waters. As they pulled alongside the Mary Celeste, the silence deepened. The ladder was down. They climbed aboard, their boots thudding on the deck, the only sound breaking the eerie quiet. The first thing Deveau noticed was the absolute emptiness. The ship was deserted. But there was no sign of a struggle, no blood, nothing to indicate a violent encounter. The forehatch was open, its cover resting beside it. The lifeboat was gone, but its davits were still intact, implying it had been lowered, not torn away by a storm. Deveau and his men cautiously explored the ship. Below deck, the scene was even more perplexing. Every cabin was in perfect order. The captain's quarters, the crew's berths, everything seemed untouched. Personal belongings were still there. Captain Briggs' navigation instruments, his sextant and chronometer, neatly stowed. Sarah Briggs' sewing machine sat undisturbed. Sophia's small bed was still made. In the galley, a meal half-eaten, still on the table. It looked as if the crew had simply, quietly vanished in the middle of a routine day. The ship's cargo, those 1,701 barrels of alcohol, was all present and accounted for. No signs of theft. No plundering. 9 barrels in the hold were found empty, their contents possibly having leaked, but no significant damage was evident. The ship itself showed no major structural damage. There was about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, not an alarming amount for a ship of its size, and certainly not enough to cause panic or necessitate abandonment. The pumps were in working order. The logbook, however, was missing the past 10 days of entries. The last entry dated November 25th, indicating the Mary Celeste had been approximately 100 miles west of the Azores. The Mary Celeste was a perfectly seaworthy vessel. Her sails were a bit ragged, but not critically so. Her rigging was sound. Her stores were plentiful. There was food, fresh water, and valuable cargo. Yet 10 people, a captain, his wife, his child, and 7 crewmen, had simply disappeared. Not a single trace, not a note, not a body. It was as if the ship had sailed through some unseen veil, shedding its human inhabitants into the vast, indifferent ocean, leaving behind only the unsettling silence. The Dei Gratia towed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, where a formal inquiry was immediately launched. The Vice Admiralty Court meticulously examined every detail, searching for an explanation. The Attorney General, Frederick Solly Flood, was convinced of foul play, suspecting Captain Morehouse and his crew of piracy and murder, staging the abandonment to claim salvage. But the evidence simply didn't support this. No valuable cargo was missing, no signs of struggle, no bloodstains. The personal effects of the crew, including their money, were still in their berths. If it was piracy, it was the most illogical act of piracy ever recorded. The court spent months trying to piece together what happened. Solly Flood's theories were elaborate, but ultimately unfounded. The Mary Celeste was a ghost, leaving only questions in her wake. The last entry in the logbook, dated November 25th, simply stated her position. No distress, no storm, nothing indicating imminent peril. The chronometer, a vital timekeeping device for celestial navigation, was still in its case, not mounted for use. The ship's sextant, another crucial navigation tool, was also stowed away. These were not items a captain would put away if he were facing an emergency that required immediate abandonment. It suggested a sudden, almost instantaneous departure, or perhaps a calculated one, based on a perceived threat that then vanished as quickly as it appeared. The lifeboat was missing, but why take to a small boat in relatively calm seas, leaving behind a perfectly sound ship laden with provisions? The mystery only deepened with every new detail, every question unanswered. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged, each attempting to explain the inexplicable. Was it piracy? Unlikely, as the Gibraltar inquiry found no evidence of theft or struggle. Mutiny? Captain Briggs was respected, the crew trusted, no motive for such a drastic act, especially one that left no trace. A giant squid? A sea monster? Fantastical, yet some desperate minds clung to the idea. More grounded theories proposed a severe storm, but the Mary Celeste was found in good condition, and weather records showed only moderate conditions. A waterspout, a localized vortex of wind and water, could have swept the crew overboard. But again, the ship itself showed no catastrophic damage, and 10 people simultaneously vanishing without a sound seems highly improbable. Even if some were lost, why abandon the ship entirely? Perhaps it was a more insidious threat. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. 9 were found empty. Could alcohol fumes have built up in the hold, causing a perceived danger of explosion? This theory suggests Captain Briggs, a cautious man, might have ordered the ship abandoned temporarily, fearing a blast. He, his family, and the crew would have boarded the lifeboat, perhaps tethered to the Mary Celeste, waiting for the fumes to dissipate. A sudden squall, a broken rope, and the lifeboat, with all its occupants, could have been lost to the vastness of the ocean, leaving the mother ship to drift, a silent testament to a moment of terror and a terrible miscalculation. But even this, the most plausible of explanations, leaves questions. Would Captain Briggs, a seasoned mariner, abandon his ship without a more definitive threat? Why no note? Why were the chronometer and sextant, vital for navigation in an open boat, left behind? The Mary Celeste's fate remains an open wound in maritime history, a chilling reminder of the ocean's indifferent power. She sailed for another 12 years, forever tainted by the mystery of her missing crew. Her story became a legend, whispered in port taverns, forever sparking the same haunting question. What truly happened aboard the Mary Celeste? Was it a momentary panic, a swift act of nature, or something far more sinister and utterly beyond our comprehension? The ship was found, serene and empty, a silent sentinel on the waves. Her crew, every single soul, simply vanished. And the vast, cold ocean, as always, kept its secrets.